Hello everyone, welcome back to Investigating It. Welcome to Derry as we really start to delve into the sewers. We're going down and we're going into the realm of Pennywise. And he actually does show up now.
Finally, yes.
Seemingly. 5 episodes into an 8-episode series of television, you actually get the person you're coming for at the beginning, which is been a good slow burn. I think I've said as much that in our previous 2 episodes of Investigating It. Welcome to Derry. I've appreciated the pace that this show has taken, the town it's crafted within Derry, the atmosphere it's crafted within Derry, the inclusions of all these other little tidbits of Stephen King-ish things as well. It's almost as though halfway through episode 5 here, the show has decided, okay, we've hit kind of where we want to get now in terms of, it's now going to turn a bit chaos and carnage. And then it just kind of rolls along with that in a completely different tone. Now, it feels like it's now a faster show halfway through episode 5. And I'm sure that's likely to continue in the 2 episodes to end this season as well, that I'm led to believe, are quite strong episodes, and the show kind of builds and builds and builds up in strength and strength. But I'm not here saying I was off-put or surprised or anything like that by this sort of change of pace that I felt in episode 5, namely, of the show. But because I appreciated the slow pace, the steady pace of the early part of the season and what it, the time it gave to explore tertiary sort of things, like the heavy sort of prejudicial side of Derry, and the fact that everybody's kind of pretending it's not all that, but it kind of
ignoring
there's elements
parts of the town.
There's elements in these 2 episodes, namely towards the back end of episode 6 that we'll be talking about today, where that attitude becomes a little bit more in your face. And while I think it needed to get there, did I prefer it just being this sort of creepy thing in the back? Maybe, because I think that was possibly more effective than almost giving us the emotional satisfaction of, not satisfaction in the sense that, we like what's going on, but the emotional completion almost of, here's something that's been building, now we're seeing it all in action. I always like horror that leaves you on the edge. That it leaves you on the edge. It never quite allows you to finish, as it were, your emotional response.
Because you're stuck.
What can make you're stuck there, and and the movie or show could end and leave you there, and you're still stuck there. And I always like that sort of intensity. I think it's very, very clever. This isn't doing that, and I now realize this isn't doing that. So in that way, is it disappointing? Yes, but can I understand why they're doing it? Of course, because it's a mainstream, major sort of thing. It has to have, for the show it is, an emotional completion, an emotional sort of satisfaction to many stories. It can't be. I wasn't really expecting it to be,
a fulfilling kind.
To just leave you feeling dark and worried and anxious and kind of and intense in that way. It was always going to PG-13 satisfy itself, even though it's not a PG-13 show.
Definitely not.
I don't quite remember. I don't know, the movies weren't either, were they? The movies were rated R in the US and
I think
15, weren't they? So it does like to go there, but I suppose
Yeah.
in a story sense, it feels like it just feels like it's gonna end okay. And I know it's not, because the it entity will
Yeah, I
obviously
mean,
not be fully defeated and comes back 27 years later and 27 years later and all this business. We know
yeah.
this.
I mean, we talked about that last week, how we were kind of interested in the concept of kind of a prequel show like this, where we know our characters don't essentially win,
Yeah.
but it's how do we get there? You know, how do we close out this chapter in order to move on to the next one that we
Well, it's
see?
the nature of a lot of prequels, really, that, isn't it? Because we obviously know what comes after.
Mhm.
It's just
The
the
how.
intrigue, the
Mhm.
interest is
Yeah.
how. The interest is how we get there. What happens to these specific characters here that we
Yeah.
know are some of which are in the later things, some of which aren't in
Mhm.
the later things. Why that may be,
Yeah.
I think most notably throughout movie history, what's been the most significant sort of entity with prequels, it's been Star Wars, hasn't it? For
Mhm.
God knows how long now.
Yeah.
We always know what came after these prequel things.
Yeah.
Rogue One, 10 years ago now, was
Yeah.
the perfect, example of a
No,
prequel where
of
we knew
knowing what happens.
everybody was going to die. We just
Yeah.
knew everybody was going to die, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter because it was a decent movie, and we
Yeah, you
enjoyed
still
the
got
movie.
invested and you still cared about these characters, knowing their fates. You still wanted to know how they did what they did, in their
Yeah.
final moments. Yeah.
So I'm teetering on these edges at the moment with it. Welcome to Derry, as to
Mhm.
whether or not I feel like it's necessary, whether I feel like it's kind of fully worthwhile, and whether I enjoy where it has seemingly gone from where it began.
Okay.
And because I really liked where it began, and I wouldn't want to see it just spoil itself by going splurge and then throwing us a load of crazy stuff. Though I
Yeah,
think that's
without kind
exactly
of
what it's going to
earning it.
do, because that's kind of is what it did as
But you
soon
did
as
say
Pennywise turned up. We all
yeah.
like seeing Pennywise, but I think I said as much last week. Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing Pennywise, and yes, I enjoyed seeing Pennywise and Bill Skarsgård embody Pennywise again in these two episodes, sure.
Mhm.
But as soon as he starts running at you, spraying his face around and being silly, I'm not into that. I want Pennywise to still feel a bit slow and a bit sort of creepy and moving his head around and tilting and,
I mean, and we
smile,
get
doing the
a little
smile.
bit. I mean, we get a little bit of that, I think, in
We
episode
do.
6. I think
We do.
that's probably your preferred version of him that we get in episode 6. But
100%.
I mean, you did say that you felt like there would be a bit of a nice bow potentially tied on things despite kind of knowing where the story goes. So is that kind of where you're a bit conflicted? Like, it can't end perfectly, but
Yeah.
you're getting a sense that at least some good might come out of kind of potentially, because it's like kind of like it chapter 1, like we
I
know that
guess.
it's,
I guess.
27 years later, our characters are still gonna have to deal with this, but it still found a way to kinda tie things up for them.
Yeah. And look, I have faith it will end strong, but because I've not seen the ending yet, I can't give my opinion on something that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah,
So, um, I'm in the precursor to all that at the
okay,
moment. I'm in the speculation to all that. And now
okay.
that we're obviously amping up and amping up and amping up with these two episodes, there's things going around my mind of exactly how are we going to end this as a presentation. Story wise can be fine, but how are we going
Yeah,
to present it? Are we
okay.
going to just forget some of the deep, interesting thematic stuff we were doing in
And just have a
favour of
bloodbath. Yeah.
bloodbath Pennywise action scene. You know,
Yeah.
sure, okay, bloodbath Pennywise action scene, yes, but also don't forget all that you really did start to pepper in there in the first 4 episodes, and I wouldn't want that to just be, here's some background context. No, I want that to be central to the fear of this show, to not just something there for it to play on and play with people about. You know, it has to be a key element. The Native American stuff has to be a key element. And I'm not sure if it now will be, because we've kind of got the answers as to how
Yeah,
they're
they like
involved.
laid out the lore and now we're kind of moved on to something else. So for you, it feels like, we did our part with that, but we
Yeah,
will get more. So, but I think they did need to lay that kind of history to show like, why is this
yeah,
entity only in Derry? And we learn, that it is trapped there by these pillars so that it
yeah.
can't kind of spread further than that. So, yeah, we will get a little bit more of the Native American stuff in the next 2 episodes. I think everything will come together for you.
Okay,
So, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's good. I hope so. Because, well, let's get into the first
Okay.
episode proper we've got to speak about today. It's episode 5, NEIBOLT Street, I think is how you
Yeah.
pronounce it.
Mhm.
Do you have a little synopsis for us, Ginny?
Yeah. After discovering Shaw's plans, Leroy takes his family to the base. As keepers plan to handle rising town violence, military forces arrive on Newbolt Street while the children enter the sewers with a mission.
Yes. What do we make of all this then? You having watched this show already, I've waffled for 10 minutes at the beginning about my own feelings.
Yes. Well, we get a character coming back. So when you saw the return of this character, did you
Yeah.
believe that this was really Maddie?
I mean, who's to say? I suppose I'm somebody that sees what they believe, or believes what they sees, not sees what they believe. That doesn't necessarily make sense.
Believes what
If
they
I saw
see.
everything, if I saw everything I believed in, that would be wild.
Yeah.
But believes in what I see. So I'm taking it at face value, and I'm going, oh, okay, damn, he's escaped the sewer, right? Okay,
His
this
hair
is
is longer, so this could be like, him, you know, uh, uh, as far later as like the time has passed. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. He's escaped the sewer. He looks deathly ill, grey faced and
Mhm.
awful. So he looks like he's gone through it. I would believe that this is him come back to get other people involved and tell them to go down there and sort it all out. Oh, and okay, I might be the most gullible person ever, and if Pennywise came after me, I'd just be like, yeah, I'll follow your red balloon.
Yeah, and if Lily is kind of determined to know what happened to her friends, and even kind of like the whole point of their first initial mission was to find out what happened to Maddie. To
Yeah,
see him again would have a strong reaction to want to believe that it's really him. And for
of
me, it
course.
was more fun because, I knew this wasn't Maddie, so I could actually watch him now and kind of see the shady little things he's doing in the background, just kind of watching them when Lily, pulls out the pill box and is talking about,
Yeah,
why they have it and what they're going to use it for. And you just see Maddie in the background sat like, what are they doing? I don't like this, So it was fun to watch him knowing that he, wasn't really Maddie and seeing kind of how he was reacting to the kids trying to, organize a plan against him.
yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's clever, really. I mean, we've got to give the it entity credit for being quite smart and
Yeah.
being, very well manipulative, because it's a good lure it's a perfect lure, basically.
Oh, yeah, and the
bring them
timing of it
all.
as well.
Yeah, the
Yes, and the
timing of it's
timing of it
perfect.
well, the same time the army is going down there
Yeah,
the military is going down there to, figure out what's going on because now they know
now they know where
where
it is through Dick's
yeah.
shining and all this business.
Yes, and the whole tunnel system. So, yeah, Leroy and his partner go down there, um, Dick as well to kind of figure things out. Dick, he ultimately gets kind of really screwed up in this episode
He
because
does.
um, Pennywise ultimately knows how to infiltrate his shine and
Which is
manifests.
wild. Pennywise can shine. Like, can
Yes.
Pennywise shine? This is a strange thing to
Yeah,
include.
I don't know if he can shine, but he can maybe sense a shine and manipulate
Mm,
it. So we see Dick kind of caught in this mind trap where he's in the bathroom with his grandma who also had a shine, and his abusive father comes in with his
yeah,
box because his grandma taught him to lock all of his worst fears and visions in these boxes, which is kind of a fun thing to see because we see Ghost Dick Halloran show young Danny this in Dr. Sleep, in the Dr. Sleep
yes.
movie.
It's a Pandora's box sort of situation. Let's put all the ghosts in
Yeah.
the box, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And so we see this, manipulated version of Dick's abusive father busting into the bathroom and with the box with chains and a lock on it, telling him, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to release all of your worst fears. And grandma trying to encourage him to fight it. But
Yeah,
ultimately we see and like his dad starts drooling and we hear all these crazy voices and it's this whole paranoia thing happening in his head, all Pennywise kind of manipulating him. So the box now is opened, and now all of the things that had been haunting him since childhood are now released. So now
yeah,
he's seeing ghosts everywhere, and he can't handle it. So he just breaks down. He's hiding in the dark. He's drinking. Um, he's yelling at Leroy, who's his commanding officer. He doesn't,
yeah,
give a crap about anything. So Dick is in a bad way. Pennywise has kind of caught on to him too. So, um, yeah, this is kind of what's the entity, Pennywise, it has now really, had a lot of wins essentially in this episode.
the
Um,
strength is building and building,
oh
which is
yes, yes.
we know this happens.
Yeah.
Every 27 years, it will start wanting to feed
Meddling and
again. It will come. It
exactly.
will
So it
come
gets
back
the
and it
kids
will build
down there.
strength, and
Mhm. Yeah.
we're at like peak Pennywise strength
Oh,
again.
yeah. That's why we finally see him here. He gets, he uses Maddie to trick the kids to go down there, and the kids are in there at the same time the military's down there. And, they take the pills, and so we see them kind of on a high, um,
Yeah,
while they're down there. And then they start to see the dead bodies of all the kids that, from the beginning,
yeah,
which Maddie had lied and said, "Oh, no, they're still alive." But we see all of their bodies, including Maddie's, float up in the sewer. And
yeah.
as they do this really cool, I think quite a bit of it was like maybe a mix of special effects and like CGI and practical effects when Maddie like spins around the pole and
Yeah,
turns from Maddie into Pennywise, and like we see like Maddie on the back of Pennywise's head and Pennywise on the back of Maddie's head as he's turning around and morphing into Pennywise
yeah.
and giving us like our hero shot of him. Um,
I love how we get a hero shot of Pennywise as well, by the
yes.
way.
Yeah, it
But
was perfectly
we
built up to and revealed,
it
I think.
was.
Yeah.
And execute it as an effect executed really
Mhm.
well, which is something you can't say for every effect
Oh,
in
yeah.
in in,
In
in it.
this
Well,
show in
very
particular, because yeah, I think we've had a bit of grievance with the CGI and how it looks in a lot of the scenes and scares and
it's
things.
it's
Yeah, it
strange
hasn't.
how in certain scenes, seemingly in the most important ones, i.e. this one,
Mhm.
they're capable of doing some really good looking effects, like even the dead bodies floating,
Yeah, floating up. Mhm.
like, they look great. They're
Mm,
clearly kind of, oh, they look real, they look tangible, this is
mhm.
good, this is what we want. There's been
Yeah,
a lot of CG in it, Welcome to Derry, even already, and after this as well, even within this episode, within the next episode, that
you
just
get
looks,
pickled at again.
it looks goofy. You get Pickle Dad again. It just looks a bit goofy. It looks silly. It
Yeah,
just looks like that. That's not a real thing. I can't
yeah.
touch
I
it.
can't
There's
it's not yeah,
always something to be said for, I don't care how cheaply it looks, how cheaply it's done,
yeah,
for the actor to be able to physically touch the special effect means way more than the special effect looking realistic. It
yeah.
means way more. Like, I don't care if it's a bubble wrapped man in a monster suit, it looks better,
Yeah.
feels better than just a piece of slop done on a computer.
Yeah, and, they're capable of that because, even I think in
Of
the
course they
films when
are.
they had that leper figure,
Yeah.
and that was a person with makeup and a
Yeah,
suit and everything.
of course they
I'm
are.
thinking of that first Smile movie at the end when, the entity is, stretching out and trying to kill her.
Yeah. You
They
know what? That was
used
really good.
yes, and that was,
I know
a
that's been
mix of
wild.
CGI, but also a lot of practical effects going
Yeah.
into making that crazy thing. So,
Like,
it
I
is
do think
possible
the
that
ending of that movie was quite wild, and
oh, yeah.
why did it turn into that compared to the rest of the movie? But as an effect,
It
yeah,
looks
sure,
great,
it
yes,
looked
but of course,
decent.
we have to think of TV budgets and things like that, but,
I mean, it's
um
HBO, there's no
right?
excuse. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
excuse.
yes, so, yeah, the effects and things happening down here, I think, are the best some of the best we've seen
They
so
are.
far.
Maybe 'cause
And
it's
yeah,
dark.
obviously yeah, they don't have to worry about a ton of light,
No.
showing a lot of the kind of, CGI cast of things. But, yeah, clearly, I think it's scary enough that the medication they take kind of wears off pretty quickly and still kind of freaks
Mm,
them out. So they do run away. I think Lily ultimately gets left behind, but while Leroy's down there, he sees Charlotte, he sees his wife, and because
yeah.
he, doesn't have the same kind of fear gene, it just looks like her. And then ultimately she kind of does turn Pennywise scary and runs at him, and he shoots her and
Yes.
realizes it's the thing playing tricks on him. But then Will appears, and Will is actually down there, and he thinks it's another trick of the
Yeah.
entity, but his partner, Polly, realizes, "No, that's actually Will." He goes to shoot it, and Polly gets in the way to protect Will and ultimately gets shot and dies.
Yeah.
So it's really, really sad how the entity kinda just screwed with him like that to
Yeah.
such a, painful degree.
I mean, maybe purposefully, but maybe
Mm,
also,
just
the
kind of
it
luck of
entities.
the situation.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
it entities there seeing that happen and go, "Oh, no,
I'm just gonna let this
that's a
play
that's
out.
that's a
I
convenient
didn't mean to
little
do all
bonus."
that, but I wasn't trying to do all that, but hey, it works for
If you
me.
wanna if you wanna kill your own military
Partner,
partner, you go and
best
kill your
friend.
own military partner, Leroy. That's fine by me.
Yeah.
I don't mind. There's somebody else for me to eat,
Yeah, he's just
which I'm
like,
sure
"Okay,
now
it works
he
out."
will just eat poorly, so it's
Mm,
fine for
yes. Well,
Pennywise.
then
I
we
know I
see
know I'm saying that in a very
so
desensitized
chill.
sort of way,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
that's probably what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Leroy does come quite close to shooting his own son, so what's better, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, so the fact that Polly steps in the way like that and he, doesn't blame Leroy, he's very much like, he
No.
understands. And he's like,
Leroy starts blaming Will a little bit though later on.
well, yeah, and we do kind of speak to that being the entity and how it kind of affects people and changes them and
Yeah.
makes them more violent as it has done to many people in the town. But we also end up seeing Dick seeing Ghost Polly. So this is what
Yes.
alerts Dick to like what has really been opened up for him, because now he's just seeing, very sixth sense, seeing dead people. Can't say that without, you know, conjuring that line delivery. But yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's like the same thing,
Yeah.
but it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah.
People who shine do see dead people, I suppose, don't they? That's the
Yeah.
point that they do. But it's
Yeah.
not in the sixth sense way. It's in a more introspective sort of way of,
Yeah.
I'm seeing dead people because I've got to figure out some mystery about something. Not just I'm seeing dead people because that's scary.
That's just,
That's
yeah.
a bit weird.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, the context, but yeah, so seeing dead Polly walking around alerts Dick to like, now he's screwed, this thing has been opened up for him.
Yeah.
And Leroy is rightfully kind of screwed up too, because he's killed his best friend, he almost killed his son, he killed this
Of course
creepy version of his wife, and so
Yeah,
the
he thought
entity
Charlotte
kind
was
of,
down there. They have
yeah.
him and real Charlotte have a whole to-do with each other, and kind of, why would I be down there? Why would I think you were down there? Why would you be down there?
Yeah.
Why would I be down there? What the hell's gone on here?
Exactly. And to the point where he does get just violent because this entity has infected him. And, they've moved to the base, and Will's kind of talking about how he needs to be there for his friends, and his father's like, no, look what happened down there. I can't, let you get hurt, so you're not leaving. So I don't know if this is more episode 6. I'm trying to remember if this happened in 6 or this one.
I'm not quite sure, but it's
so
relevant. Look,
argument.
it's relevant to the story. It's
Yeah.
not, we can't get overly concerned about which episode is relevant to these episodes we did watch. So
Yeah.
the interesting thing I think here is Will kind of gives the impression that Leroy, yes, we know Leroy is a man without fear. He is Daredevil. But he also appears to be a man without care as well at this sort of point. A man without love at this point as well, because he's been just affected. Like, is it affecting his other sort of sensory emotions, as obviously his
his
become
fear,
a man without fear because of his
so he can kind of
injury.
get to him. He can get to him in other ways, and we see this, in other townspeople, and we know Leroy turns into kind of this cold person because we see Grandpa him
much later on
with Mike. Yeah, so we know that he stays in Derry only to kind of fester in these horrible feelings that are present here, and gets even worse. And so this is just kind of the beginnings of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's going to happen. It's a great depiction of that, because we've seen Leroy and Will have a decent, nice father-son dynamic. They're perfectly nice to each other. This is a horrible scene, though, of Leroy being violent towards Will not knowing how to take this, because this is not how his father has ever been, clearly, towards him. So,
and Will knows that. He says it's gotten to you.
That.
It's making, it's affecting you. It's this isn't you. So he knows that it's because of the entity, and he ends up running away, riding his bike off base to go be with his friends.
Yeah, and it's pretty tragic to see the start of, obviously, where we would know Leroy to
kind of get worse.
Because he just stays in Derry. The question is, why the hell does he stay in Derry? I mean, do we find that out in these next 2 episodes? Why they don't just leave? I suppose we do, but I'd be interested to learn why he can't leave. He hasn't left after all these years and having experience of what it can do. Like, why would you want to be close to that unless something else happened? something else clearly happened. But what,
Yeah.
we don't know at this point. We do if we watched the show before, but I don't know at this point
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So, I don't want to say anything. So, yeah, I guess you'll just
No,
have
that's
to
fine.
wait and see. Yeah.
I
Just have to
will
wait
wait.
and
I
see
will
where that
wait and see.
goes. Um, but yeah, just kind of I think that's the biggest thing we're really getting in this episode is
It is, yeah. I think we get the idea that Hank Grogan is hiding out in the
oh
black
yes.
as
Yes.
well.
So he's about to be transferred to Shawshank.
Yes.
And
We don't see
there's a big
Shawshank. We should see Shawshank. I want to see
yes.
Shawshank. I
I
want
know.
to just be the
Um
exact same as it was in the
But
movie.
they do
That's
kind of
fine.
reference because they say, like, new fish don't last long. And that's kind of, when they see
Yeah,
that scene of when Andy first comes to the prison, we see that's what they call new people coming in. And
it's
they,
all the
have that
same.
awful betting of who's going to survive the night and all of that whole kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, they do
Somebody
allude
starts
to that
screaming.
connection. Yes, and crying and all this kind of stuff. So they do say a line to Hank about, new fish, as a little nod to that. Charlotte's there. We see the father of one of the kids that was killed there as well, like waiting in the
Yeah.
wings to come out and attack Hank. We see this creepy, I think Charlotte looks through the doorway of the prison and sees this really sweaty, creepy cop, with
Mm.
buck teeth, holding a baton, just looking at her. And I was looking at I was watching a new Rockstars breakdown of the episode, and he mentions that like the uniform that this cop is wearing is not the same as the other guards at the hospital. And the fact that he's
Oh,
holding a baton and things, and Charlotte's the only one really seeing it, and like then he disappears the next time, is potentially her, the entity kind of maybe calling back to a racist cop in a situation she dealt with,
yeah.
where
In
I think in
Georgia.
Louisiana or where she came from. So, um, yeah, the entity kind of
That's a good
playing with her as
point.
well in this scene. But then we do see on the news later that Hank's bus crashed and he
Yeah.
escaped. So they
Very
don't explain how
convenient.
or why, but somebody comes and picks him up, and we see the person who picks him up is Madeline Stowe's character,
Yes.
and she's the white woman he's been having this affair with, and we learn that she's married to the butcher, who kind of just Charlotte's talking to him, and she sees these boys being violent on the street, and he's just ignoring it. So that kind of speaks to who he is, and we get this really gross scene of him just being awful to her.
Yeah.
Because Lily goes to talk to her, get advice from her, and she introduces, "Oh, do you remember Lily?" And he's like, "Where's my steak?" He doesn't even care.
Pretty much.
And he's
Yes.
like, "Don't
That
burn it,"
there
and kinda yeah.
that banging his knife and fork on the table going, "Give me my food,
Essentially,
woman."
yeah, yeah, and just, like, looking sloppy and not all nice put together like we saw him the first time, just, in
No.
his, dirty, sweaty tank top and,
Now,
demanding his steak from her.
obviously
Yeah.
obviously Madeline Stowe's character becomes far more relevant once we learn a
Yeah.
bit more about her in this second
Mhm.
episode that we'll get
Yeah.
onto very shortly. But even this, like, it's quite impressive for her to kind of seemingly orchestrate this bus crash to save Hank because they're just
Yeah.
having an affair. Like, that's quite an impressive thing to do. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and
okay,
then she goes
she might have sort of, because she works at the Juniper Hill Asylum,
Mhm.
obviously, she might have a
Yeah.
bit of insider info and things like this, okay, about how people transfer
The
from
train or
secure
when the bus is
facilities,
going.
yeah,
Yes,
to
what time
secure
the bus will be
facility.
going. Mhm.
But it's still, we don't see any of it, obviously. We kind of we just
No, you can
hear
kinda
and
just
see aftermaths and
maybe
things like that.
assume. Yeah, and then she goes to talk to Charlotte, so the fact that she knows Charlotte's
Yeah,
helping him
there's been a
and
plan.
knows to contact her, um, because then yeah, I mean, just to kinda touch on the next episode, our mob that we see in that film says they got an anonymous call from a white woman. So,
Yeah.
what is happening here?
What is going on? What is
Yes,
going on?
yes, and we do ultimately learn, when, her husband does walk up in that scene when Lily's visiting, she says, "Hello, Mr. Kirsch," and then we realize, okay, yeah, she's Mrs. Kirsch, the creepy old woman
Yes.
that grown-up Beverly meets in It Chapter 2, which, we have to assume was probably long since dead and killed by Pennywise,
Mhm.
um, and just using, her to as a scary vessel as he uses most
Yes.
people. So we have to assume like when did he get to her? As
Well,
she
if she became an old woman, then not quite yet. Not quite
yeah,
yet. We don't know when, because I mean, think about it. It's not going to be now in 1962,
you know,
and then it's not in it chapter 1, which is late 80s. So when does the It entity get to Madeline Stowe?
well,
Or is it because there is this deeper connection that Madeline Stowe, Mrs. Kirsch, has
mhm,
to the concept of Pennywise and it as a whole thing that we obviously
yeah.
learn and will get into pretty much now,
Yeah.
that the entity recognizes her as a constant throughout its existence in Derry.
Yeah.
So it can kind of just go, okay, Madeline Stowe's Mrs. Kirsch can die somewhat naturally, but then I'll
I can
always be
still
here in the
use her.
background because I can still
Yes.
use her. Because clearly, I think we'd know if if it killed Mrs. Kirsch. We'd know that. It's not
It would
possible for
be
that to have
yes.
happened
Yes,
because
but,
it doesn't happen now and it doesn't happen in it chapter 1. So there's no other time.
yes, and New Rockstars kind of talked about how old she would be because they did, like, really look into the photos of her albums and how old she was and things. So, if she had survived to the time that we see her with Beverly,
Yeah.
in the time that, in Chapter 2 takes place, she would have been 106. And here, I think she's about
Yeah.
63 years old, like, as Madeline
Yeah.
Stowe here. So, yeah, I I definitely don't think, so she had to have died long before, you know,
I mean,
this
people can
version
live
kind
to
of takes her.
106, but
Yes. Yeah.
very rarely. It's
Yes.
not everybody lives to 106, is it? At
Yeah,
all. We obviously know that.
exactly. Yeah.
It's not an
It's not
impossibility, but
no, but it's not very
considering
common. Yeah.
no, but considering she would have been born in roughly 1900
Yeah.
as a character, it's going to be fairly tough. Anyway,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what and who is Madeline Stowe, Jeannine? Here, as
Yes.
I think we can move into a little bit more of the 6th episode, In the Name
Name
of the
of the
Father, which
father.
isn't
Yeah.
anything to do with the Holy Father, even though that's what it would suggest. We're not
Yes, well, we
doing some sort
do
of confirmation here. It's not
Yes.
Catholicism.
Yes, but as I did watch in the New Rockstars breakdown, they did show that, like, the title of the episode, there is a moment when I think Margie and Rich go into the black spot, and before they go in, we see Margie, like, do the f do that,
Oh yes,
the Father,
yes,
the Son, the Holy Ghost kinda thing before
yes.
she goes in there. So, it
It's
is kind of
also got
alluded to in the
nothing to
name.
do. Yes, but it's also got nothing to do with the Daniel Day-Lewis movie.
Yes. No, definitely not. But a little synopsis here. Plagued by increasingly dark visions, Dick learns the black spot is integral to Charlotte's plan. Meanwhile, Will faces his parents' disapproval, Marge stands up to the patty cakes, and Lily's mental state worsens. So
Lily's mental
yeah,
state does worsen. Lily's
we
Lily's
her
mental
she's
state's
turning
going through it
into yeah, she's turning into Gollum here, like,
a little bit.
yeah, because we didn't mention in the sewer, she gets separated from everybody. Pennywise is coming at her, with his crazy, like, layers of teeth face, and then freezes
Stupid fast
suddenly.
movement.
He just, like, breaks down, and she doesn't know why, and then she looks down and sees this glowing thing under the sewer water,
Yeah.
and she picks it up, and it scares Pennywise away. So it looks like it's one of the shards that, has kept him in place.
Yes.
So
It's
now
kryptonite. Pennywise is actually Superman.
E
He can't walk past it.
exactly, it's part of the meteor that, brought him here.
It's the
Um,
same concept, though, isn't it? We can't deal with this particular mineral, rock, whatever it may be,
yeah.
and if you put that around, you can trap
Yeah,
Pennywise. You can trap it
yeah.
in a distinct area, which is
Yeah.
what the Native Americans did.
Yeah.
What we're aware the Native Americans spiritually have done.
Yeah, have planted them around so the entity can't get, farther than this small town and wreak havoc all over the place.
The
But it
question being,
also
what they could have done was put it in like a 3 square meter area, which then could have just been closed off,
away from the people. Yeah.
away from the people in the middle of the forest with a lead dome over it, and then that was just where it was, and it could stay there forever and never affect anybody.
Yeah.
But no. Why they had to then just go, "Oh, actually,
Give it kind of
let's make
such
it
a
an
wide
entire
breadth.
town. Let's make it there.
Yes.
Let's allow it to." I'm not blaming the Native Americans, but I just think they could have done
Yeah.
a bit of a better job of keeping
Yeah, but essentially maybe it's just like, let it attack
secure.
these white people and we'll just keep ourselves
but
safe on
that-
the borderline.
And you know what? That's the concept. Let
Yeah,
it
it's
attack
just
the
our
the
oppressor.
genocidal settlers who have come in, which is absolutely fine, obviously.
Yeah.
But we don't actually get that sort of explanation or further exploration.
No, they don't
do
say
it,
that's why
which-
they did that.
which we actually could get and make it a bit more impactful. This is what I was saying before. Let's not forget about the Native American idea.
Yeah.
Why have they made it entirely Derry? It's probably that reason you've just mentioned, but because we don't get that indication, and I'm not saying we have to be spoon-fed it or anything like that, but we don't even get
Yeah.
a slight indication that is why. Like, that's speculation you've just come up with there, really, isn't
You
it?
could kind of
So-
explain. Yeah, why they didn't do more kind of like cornering it in a smaller,
Yeah.
more isolated part of the forest or whatever.
That would have been the logical thing. But if we saw a little bit of perhaps violence towards Native Americans in some sort of flashback or something
Yeah,
like
but
that,
then like
the
we have
people-
to protect our own kind of mentality.
we have to
or
protect
something.
our own kind, our own way of life and things like this from these evil people coming over, which
Yeah.
we know happened.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
if we had that in it, we'd understand, but we don't get that. We weren't given
Yeah.
that, so it's all up in the air. It now
Yeah.
just looks like the Native Americans are idiots, and they didn't put it.
They didn't
in
plan
a
it out very
logical,
well.
small place.
Yeah. Like I don't think I really thought about that, but now that we're kind of talking about it, I'm like, yeah. Like I
This is
liked
me and
getting
my
the lore.
nitpicks, you know,
Yes, I liked getting the lore of like these shards, part of the meteor that kind of brought this thing. We need to keep it within a certain area, but yeah, why specifically that wide a breadth of area, and why this town and why these people and whatever. But yes, just to kind of stick to what we're given. Now this shard is becoming like the ring or a Horcrux in the fact that like
a little.
yes. Yeah, so Lily is explaining to all of them this thing, and that's what stopped it and made it run away. And they're trying to like touch it. And she's like, "No, I'll hold it." And even I think when Richie goes to like put his hand on it,
Precious
she like
rings,
jerks it
precious
away.
shard.
Yes, and it's making her get very kind of aggressive. And so she's talking about maybe we can use it. It scares it. So let's go down there again. And Ronnie's like, "No, like you have led us to horrible circumstances every time, and Lily doesn't like hearing this, so she's like, I never should have gone to your house, and if I had never gone to your house, then none of them would have died. Like, you weren't in there, you didn't see them all die in front of you, and this whole kind of thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Ronnie's like, yeah,
There's all a
I'm
big
glad.
argument.
Yeah, and Ronnie's like, I'm glad, I wish you wouldn't have come to my house either, because then my father wouldn't be in this mess that he's in, or as bad as he's in, because of you. And they get into this big fight, and Marge is clocking like this thing is making Lily more volatile, and she
Yeah.
tries to reach for it, and Lily like screams at everybody. And Rich does the thing that happened in It Chapter 1, where they're all fighting, and I can't remember which kid says, this is what it wants, like, let's stop fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Rich kind of does the same thing and says, this is what it wants, we need to stop fighting. But the shard is making Lily really aggressive, and Ronnie's just already upset because she doesn't know where her dad is and all of this stuff going on, and she blames Lily for it, that she storms
Only one
off.
thing really Ronnie cares about, and it's her
Her
dad's
dad.
safety.
Yeah. So they all kind of break apart, and it ends up just being Will and Rich and Marge kind of left to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So Lily goes off on her way, and that's when she goes to try to find Mrs. Kirsch to talk to her, explain kind of what's going on. And ultimately, I think Will goes to check on Ronnie, and Ronnie's like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I was a little too harsh, but I'm just so tired of being scared. So you get kind of this understandable, like, she feels bad for how she talked to Lily, because I think she said, she said, they should have kept you in Juniper Hill and you're crazy, and she said all these things to her.
Yeah.
So
It's a nasty old
it gets
argument.
nasty. Yes, but Ronnie does feel bad. Will consoles her, and when she says, I'm just so tired of being scared, and I shouldn't have said that, but and they hug, and then they have a little moment, and then here rolls up Charlotte, Will's mom.
Hilarious.
Like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you guys think you're grown over here? And she
the
tells
last thing
Ronnie,
any 13-year-old wants when they're, kind of about, I mean, like, you're quite nice. I've got a bit of a crush on you. Is
yeah,
their own mother to start rolling up in the car and just going, what's going on over here? I don't want this.
exactly.
But it's more serious
Mom,
than that. It's not. It's not a joke.
Yes, like, Mom, you're killing my game here. But she tells
Charlotte's
Ronnie
here
to
for
get
a
in the
reason.
car too. Yes, and Ronnie's like, why me? Like, so ultimately, yeah, she takes them to the black spot. And before this, we see the guys kind of setting it up. Dick now is completely just a mess. He goes there to find some booze to drink. He gets some booze. He's like, I'm just gonna go in the back and drink and sleep. But they're like, oh no, you can't go back there. He's like, why? And then he opens the door, and he's like, what you got this guy back here? Just wanted posters of him all over town. Like, what the heck is going on here? And like,
Hank's just living in the back room. He's got his bed
the black
there,
spot.
and
Yes. And he's like, Leroy's wife asked us if we could just hide him here until she's able to get him out of town. It's just going to be for a short time. No one needs to know. And Dick is like, I ain't got nothing to do with this. Like, he's just fed up. So he leaves. And then Charlotte brings Ronnie and Will there. And so Ronnie gets reunited with her dad, and it's a really nice scene, and
very touching, very, very moving.
Yeah, yes. And all of this is kind of leading up to the guys setting up to actually open the black spot for like a party that night.
Yeah. Why there should be a party at the moment, though, is beside anybody's concern, really. I don't know why the day after we've just gone into the sewer and seen the craziness and are aware of exactly the supernatural nature of what's
but I mean, those men,
we've decided
didn't have anything to do with it. So
no, sure, not those specific men, but other men involved in the sort of atmosphere of the black spot. Shall we say, the other black people of Derry, shall we say, have been involved. So maybe they could give an indication. I don't think now is the best time for an
I mean, I don't think, I don't think they really know like what's really going on a deeper level.
Well, no, they don't know, do they? But they know something creepy.
So this is kind of their place to be, and their kind of
suppose
safe
it's a
spot that they're
safe
making
house,
for
isn't it? It's a
themselves.
safe house.
Exactly. So they feel like, we can open it, we can have a good time. We have our own place, our own spot where nobody's going to, bother
Yeah.
us, or so they think. Um,
Well,
and
yes.
so once Will knows that Ronnie's there, he gets word to Marge and Rich to come, and maybe we can all convince Ronnie to talk to Lily so we can figure this out.
Yeah.
But before this, we get a little bit of a cute moment with a couple cute moments actually with Marge and Rich. Um,
Yeah.
so she is up, on their little tower spot, and he startles her. He comes up there because he has his little plane that he likes to throw off because he was trying to make it land on Main Street. Like he has this recurring mission to try to get it to land on Main Street.
What an innocent little mission.
Right. And Marge is there and she's like, "Oh, I have to change the bandage on my eye." And he's like, "Oh, I can help you," because she's like, "Oh, and the tape hurts." And he's like, "Well, I have a little trick
Yeah.
for it to get the tape off where it doesn't hurt." So he sits her down and he, spits on his finger to loosen the tape, to get it off her face. And she's like, "Oh, it's really gross," and just kind of embarrassed. But he looks at, he's like, "No, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen." And so like he helps her rebandage her eye.
I would also question, like, is it the coolest thing you've ever seen, though? I mean, sure, it might be.
I mean,
but
a kid at
is
that
it
age, I
not?
think.
Is it not objectively a little bit disgusting? Even if you think it's like cool, would
I
you not just
mean,
kind of go, "Oof, that looks a bit nasty"? I
you
mean,
all
I'll
are
help you. I'll continue to help you, but it
yes.
does look nasty.
I mean, you all are weird like that. I mean, wasn't the whole
But
thing like in
you
Stand
or
By
what do you
Me?
mean? What do you
"Oh,
mean?
hey
You or
guys,"
me?
young boys. But it's like the whole thing
Oh, I
Stand By Me.
see.
"Oh, hey, you want to go see a dead body?" Like the morbidity,
I
the
think it's a Stephen
morbidity
King. It
of
must be a Stephen King thing.
the
It's not a
morbidity
me
of
thing.
young boys, in general, I
I don't want
think
to see
just
a
have this
dead body.
concept. Well, I think generally there's this kind of, generalization of young boys wanting to liking, being
Oh, no, I
intrigued by
understand.
gross stuff. So,
I
I
understand.
mean,
I'm talking about my opinion here. I will help you, Marge, but it does look nasty. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be frank. I'm
well,
not going to.
I think
I'm
it's
not going to
sweet
paint.
that he doesn't embarrass her because she already is like, "It's super gross," but him saying it's cool makes her, feel comfortable and not as embarrassed. So he helps her rebandage her
Yes,
eye.
okay.
Yes, it's very sweet, and then he throws his
It is sweet.
plane
No,
and
I'm not
misses
denying
Main
it is
Street
sweet.
and goes into the sewer, of course.
The plane
So,
does, yes. The plane
yeah,
does end up in the sewer. Somehow it ends up in the sewer. I mean, these sewer holes are that
just
large.
so yeah, that, well, Pennywise he's got his tentacles and everything, so he, just like, Georgie's boat managed to float
Oh,
its
well, yeah,
way
I
to the
mean,
right
that
sewer.
was at least,
So
yeah, that, I mean, the boat at the beginning of it, obviously, rather famous, Pennywise peeping up from inside the sewer and going, "Hi, Georgie," and all this business. Yes,
yeah.
the boat's small. This plane's not that small. It's quite large. I'm just thinking how conveniently
You
large are the
nitpicking
sewer
again? No,
grids.
it's like those little wooden planes that you just kind of put together. They're like
Yes,
just
it's an
made up of like
Airfix set. I
yes,
understand that, but
yes. I don't think
it's
it's
bigger
that
than the
big.
boat,
I think
and I still think that the convenient large
stop
size of the sewer
nitpicking.
grates in
Stop.
Derry.
There are so many more interesting things happening in this
I
episode, and
understand that.
you're
I
nitpicking
understand that, but
on the
the
size of this
convenient large
plane.
size of the sewer grates in Derry are clearly purpose built
Yeah, you
for
definitely weren't
Pennywise to
a
stick his
normal
head up.
you definitely weren't a normal boy because you're literally old manning this conversation right now.
The purpose for
For the
built
size
for
of this plane.
Pennywise to stick his head up them,
Okay, fair. All right.
and for a
Um,
balloon to conveniently get out of.
come in and out of there. Yes. It's Pennywise magic. Like we know this.
Well,
So
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
yes. So yeah, it's a really kind of cute moment between the two of them. And I think it's even happening when like the sunset's happening. So it's really kind of sweet.
Yes.
And then the next day at school, we see them and they're sitting together at lunch. And they're kind of talking about how scared they were, what happened. And he's like, they both kind of like, "Oh, we heard voices and in the pipes." And he's like, "Yeah, I heard him too. I didn't even want to go to the bathroom." And so she's like, "You held it all night?" And he's like, "Well, no." And she's like, "Well, what did you do?" And he's like, "I don't want to say," but she like insists on asking. So he tells her like he peed in a bucket or like a bottle or
Yeah,
something or
I had a
jar and
jar
empty
next to my
and
bed.
yes, and emptied in the morning. And she's like, "Oh, well, that is kind of like, a chamber pot,
Yeah,
knights used to pee in those, um, so she calls him a knight and talks about,
it's
how
all
knights, save fair maidens and do cool
oh,
things and
yes. It's
yes.
all very
Yeah.
tense, isn't it,
And
for that
then
little
he
witch?
yes, and then he said he was looking in his attic and he found this like family like passed down eye patch and he gives it to her and she's like, "Oh my gosh, how
Yes.
cool. Like I always wanted to be a pirate." And so then they kind of
So
like
now she
joke
looks
about
like a
what their Halloween costumes will be. She can be a pirate and he can be a knight, and it's really cute.
it is.
And then the snooty girl group comes up and is like, "Oh, Marge, we heard about your little incident. It's everybody's talking about it. Why don't you come sit with us and leave this nerd table to come talk to us?" And like they even, call Ricky Ricardo and all this whole kind of thing.
Racism.
Yeah, and so they're just kinda snooty and trying to get Mars to leave the nerd table to go sit with them, and "You really wanna sit here with the freaks?" And she's like, "Well, I'm a freak too." And she takes off the eye
Yes,
patch and, like, shows
that's
them
why
her
I'm for.
creepy eye
Yeah,
and
I like
freaks them
that.
out, makes one of the snooty girls choke on her gum, and Richie's just, like, 10 times more smitten seeing her do this.
Oh, yeah.
So she's fully now, I think, a part of our group where she was, kind of wishy-washy
Oh,
a
yeah,
little
she was
bit.
teetering. She was teetering. But no,
Yes.
entirely, and she needs to be for all
Mhm.
this because
Yes, I like
we all have
Marge.
to come together, obviously, to try and help Ronnie and Lily reconcile. Ronnie
Yeah.
ultimately has to be kind of try to be convinced to leave her dad's side, who she's refusing to leave her dad's side, as you would. I think you fully
Mhm.
understand Ronnie's mentality in all this,
Yeah, of wanting to
definitely.
stay there with him, yeah.
But obviously, the Lily angle of it all is she goes to Mrs. Kirsch's again
Yeah.
and discovers some discovery. And this is rather important
Yeah, she
discovery.
knocks on Mrs. Kirsch's door, she's not answering, so she walks in, she hears, like, some music
Because it's
playing up in
conveniently unlocked.
yes. She hears some music playing in the attic, she goes up there, she's looking around at her old albums and things, and then Mrs. Kirsch appears, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, everything's a mess, I got in a fight with my friends, we went into the sewers, and it didn't go well." And she's like, "Oh, and you saw him?" And, like, she's like, "Wait, what?"
Mhm.
Well, she
What?
hugs her, she's like, "Oh my gosh, like, how I'm glad you're okay," and she hugs her, and as she hugs her, she sees over her shoulder a picture of what looks like Pennywise,
Yes.
um, and she kinda
Or
panics.
what looks like a gentleman very, very closely resembling a clown
Yes,
that
and you
would
can
look like
tell, like, the
Pennywise.
clown head is like like a head covering, it's not, like,
Yes, it's the same
attached.
hair, it's the same
Yeah, and so
yeah.
she's kind of confused, and she mentions that they saw this thing, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you saw him. You saw him." And so Lily's confused, like, how she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And we did open this episode with a little scene of young, Mrs. Kirsch, which the actress they got literally looks like a young Madeline
Oh,
Stowe, which is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, good
Um
casting. I liked these little,
Yeah.
black and white flashbacks, as it
Yes,
were.
so it's like 1935, I think it says, and is this little girl, Mabel, and, Mrs. Kirsch hears her, talking about this scary voice telling her to come down to the basement because he wants to show her, like,
Yeah.
a circus show, and she doesn't wanna go. And so then Mrs. Kirsch wakes her up and she's like, "Come on, let's go. Let's go down to the basement. It's gonna be okay." And she walks her down there. And so I think the
Red
episode kind of
balloon.
yes, and the red balloon shows up and then we cut it there, but then we go later to see what really
Yeah.
happened as she's talking to Lily. Um, and yeah, she takes this little girl Mabel down there and here he comes. Pennywise walks out, and she's so excited to see him, and he's like, "Mabel, you finally came down here to see my show, and you brought a friend." And Miss Kirsch is looking at him, and she's like, "Papa?" And he realizes
Mm,
he's clocking, "Oh, this must be the little girl whose
yeah.
father like I took."
Father, I
And
now am.
yes, and so now we flash back to that carnival, and we see the little clown girl, and like, oh, that must have been young, Miss Kirsch.
Yes.
Um, and then he gets kind of scary with them, and so they run away from him, and they run into this back room, and Mabel falls and gets left behind, and Mrs. Kirsch tries to open the door to let her in, but the door is jammed and the little girl can't get in. And here comes Pennywise behind the girl. She's reaching her hands under the door. Mrs. Kirsch is like holding on to her hands. And then we just see, we hear squishing and screaming. And then we just see a pool of blood fill
Yes.
up under the door. And then when Pennywise pops up into kind of like the window of the door, he looks like her father, like in his,
Yeah.
half made up, saying, "Oh, daughter, open the door. It's daddy. It's papa. It's papa." And he's talking to her. And she's just, then we cut into the present, and she's like, "And he was back, and I finally got to see him, and then I knew what I had to do, that like this was how I would see him again." And
I do
he
wonder.
he was a little bit different, he was a little bit changed because of whatever happened to him, but I know my father, and that was him. So now she's under this impression that Pennywise is actually her father, and she has to kind of
Yes.
bring children to him in order to see him again. So this is
Yeah.
how she sees her father again. And so so it turns out she was kind of maybe potentially orchestrating things, getting Lily to kind of bring him out again. So she's very excited that
Yeah.
Lily and her friends saw him. And so then she admits that the clown they took a snapshot of was her, because she knew that they were in the
Yes.
cemetery, and she had hoped that she would get a glimpse of him. So she dressed up, and she's like, "I want my daddy to see me in my clown costume." I can't remember what Periwinkle, I think, is her clown name. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
something like that.
And so she made like an adult version. And so she was the one they saw. And then also she was the one outside of Will's window. So she's like,
Yeah.
You are the group of kids I know him to scare, or know him to come out for. So I
Yeah.
think if I keep an eye on you, if I follow you, I'll get to see him. And I wanted him to see me as his little periwinkle. So I dressed up in my costume. And Lily's like, "What the hell is
Well,
happening?"
naturally. See, this is
Yeah.
the interesting thing, is because how much is Mrs. Kirsch aware of the fear of it all?
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah.
she just completely
So
blinded by
transfixed.
the
Yeah.
fact? Yeah, she's completely blinded by the fact that this looks like her father. Therefore, she believes it to be her father. Therefore, she thinks, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes to
Yes, I'm gonna
see my
orchestrate
father. A
these
lot of father
situations.
storylines going on,
Well,
I'd like
yeah,
to
perfect
point out
title.
as well.
Yes. So she's
Perfect
like,
title.
"Let me
But
orchestrate these scenarios so I can see him again." Yeah.
exactly. Not thinking about the consequences of it in terms of the deaths of children and what have you.
Exactly.
Because that's not factoring
Factoring in,
remotely
no, she's very kind of
to
focused.
her brain in
Yeah.
any sense. Was there ever any, being speculatory again about this sort of question, was there ever any possible thought in watching this for you the first time, or for anybody, I open this question up to all listeners of Investigating It, Welcome to Derry, that they were going to fiddle around with the law of it and actually make it, Madeline Stowe's genuine father? Not just this, but not just this. I know I'm being a little bit
Yeah.
absurd with this kind of question and a little bit
No,
out
I
there
mean
with the suggestion. But rather than obviously the reality of it kind of makes sense. The alien entity of it
mhm,
comes
yeah.
down, witnesses this clown called Pennywise, you know, getting all these kids
Mhm,
excited and coming to him to see his show, and it as an entity obviously wants to eat children. That's the
yeah,
concept. So how are we going to do this? Oh, we're going to be this person, and then we'll just become that person as a
yeah.
visual, as a representation. That's obviously what happens. But I do wonder if there's a half-second thought of anybody in making this and going, should we be that bold? Should we be really, really bold with it? Stephen won't like it. Stephen will hate it.
I
But
mean,
should we be that bold with it and just try and suggest actually some sort of,
that
you
she's
know,
is actually his
genuine
daughter.
father-daughter? Yeah.
No, I never thought that, but I thought that maybe she wasn't real and she was just a
And
figment
she wasn't
of
real
Pennywise.
of it. Ah,
Well
okay,
well,
that
and
yeah, I
even for
like
the
that.
first little bit before we saw her interacting with other characters, I thought that maybe she was just a figment of Lily's imagination potentially. Um,
Okay.
and she maybe wasn't real. But once we see her kind of
I could have
interact with
bought.
other characters and things like that, I was like, "Okay, no, she's real." But for a second, I thought, "Well, maybe she is somebody again that he's using as a vessel, and maybe he's been puppeting her since, you know,
Yeah,
all this time into old ladyhood, and that's when he inhabited her." So I thought that
yeah.
for maybe a split second, but,
Okay, okay.
um,
I could have
yeah.
bought into that. I could have bought into that, to be fair, but the reality of
Yeah.
it obviously isn't that and is this, and is a great
Interesting,
reveal,
kinda
I think.
yes. Yeah, and the fact that she's a character that we saw in the later movies, and then we kind of give her and we saw, in that house, we saw pictures of, young her and her father as this as this man who,
Pennywise the
traveled with
clown.
the circus. Exactly. So, kind of connecting to that and giving that a history was really interesting, kind of replicating a version of that picture that we saw was kind of warped and creepier than this
Yes.
version because this is a real picture and that was potentially like a, fabricated, a
Yeah,
Pennywise fabrication. Um, so yeah, she reveals all this. Lily is freaked out now. Like, I can't trust this woman. She literally was
no,
using me. She literally is luring kids so she can see her father again. What the heck? And she reaches out to her. She's like, help me see him again." And
yeah,
she reaches out her hand, very similar to how she reached her hand out to Mabel to come with her.
mm,
And Lily scratches her with the shard and runs away.
yeah,
um and yeah, so she's kind of now doesn't know who to trust, has this new information, and then we see Marge and Rich at the black spot to potentially
yes,
help Will convince Ronnie to come back to the group. But she's refusing. She's like, "No, I'm gonna stay with my dad," because I think even Charlotte's plan is to get him and Ronnie together out of town.
yeah,
So I guess I'm just gonna leave grandma by herself. But um, then the night's kind of starting and the little party starting and the band's like playing and the music's going and people are showing up to party. And so Marge and Rich just kind of stay for the show.
yeah.
Um,
Rich ends up
and
on the drums at one point because the drummer's
yes, and
incapacitated.
yeah, and this bartender's terrible. He's like, "Can I get 2 Cokes?" Because these Cokes taste funny. Like, why are you giving these kids booze?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a bit suspicious.
terrible. It's supposed to be like a cute little thing, but it's like, I don't know. So like, there's no nefarious kind of intent behind it, but like,
There's not.
why you need to spike their Coke? These are little ass little kids, like 13, 14-year-old kids. So yeah, Richie, the guy, their drummer's kind of like passed out or making out or something. I think he's passed out. And so they ask Rich, hey, because they say his drumsticks in his back pocket. Hey, and
Yeah,
we were introduced to him as a drummer in the school band. So we
yeah,
know, okay, this kid knows how to drum. So they ask Richie and he gets on the drums, and there's a white woman like singing jazz, and everyone's having a good time. And Marge is like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do all that,
mm,
Rich." So, another little cute vibe between the two of them.
They're getting a
And then we
little bit
cut.
confused about how a certain couple are dancing as well, because it's rather intimate
Oh, yeah,
dancing
it's a
these two
little
people are doing.
close, a little close, yes. So then we cut to a bunch of the, white men in the town all still up in arms about
Is
Frank
that white
Grogan
with a
getting
"wh" as well, by the way? That
white,
was
white,
yes.
yes. Um,
It has to be,
so
doesn't it? In a racist context, it has to be
exactly. So
white
we
with
get
a
all
"wh."
these men all in a huff because the bus crashed. Nobody knows where Frank Grogan is. They want to do something about it. Police chief is like, "Well, they fired me for not getting the job done, but
Yeah,
before I left, I got an anonymous tip from a white woman telling me where, with a pretty clear um cue of where Frank
yeah,
Grogan is hiding."
yeah.
And so they're
Well,
like, "Well, let's
now
go down there." And one of the men, of course, in this group is Mr. Kirsch. Um,
yes.
yeah.
But
So,
surely we question this as well.
yeah.
Why is Madeline Stowe clearly it's supposed to be Madeline Stowe who's tipped them off? Why?
Well, if you know her motives, I mean, she knows volatile situations will bring her daddy around, bring her papa around.
Yeah.
So I think the assumption is she orchestrates this whole thing so she can see him again. So,
I mean,
um,
it's an enormous thing to kind of orchestrate. Obviously, we
yeah.
we don't witness what happens necessarily in this particular episode. It's right at the end of episode 6. We basically see all the policey white people arrive at the black spot, and they're all
Yeah, there's like a
wearing
couple
strangers
monster.
looking masks.
Yeah, they're like wearing like monster movie masks, and I think this is a nod to the book where the it
Oh, I
entity
see.
actually took on the form of all the universal monsters at a certain point. Um,
What?
yeah, I
But
think
that
that's in
would
the
be
book.
silly.
Well, yeah, because I think one of
If I'd have
them,
read that, if I ever read it and all 9,000 pages of it,
yes, and
and
the
I
very
and I see
controversial finale.
every yeah, it's
Let's all
strange.
sleep with Beverly to defeat this, to make ourselves grown
Yeah,
up to be able to defeat it.
yeah,
Like
that's a good
13?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting one, isn't it, really? I
Yeah.
say interesting, I mean, it's creepy, actively.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
if I ever read all 9,000 pages of it and read Pennywise now turns into the Invisible Man, I'm just gonna start
Well
laughing, it's gonna take me out of it.
well, I don't know if it's all of them, but, like, I think the major ones he takes the form of in the book, and I think
Are
one
you
of the kids, I
suggesting
can't
the
remember.
Invisible Man is not a major
Well,
universal
no,
monster?
well, just like probably like Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, and like those
Yes,
3
okay.
potentially. But I think in the miniseries, I think one of them is particularly afraid of the Wolfman. So I do think we see him as the
Oh,
Wolfman, I want to say, but I don't
Tim
remember. I haven't
Curry's.
watched. Yes. So I want to say,
Oh,
but I haven't seen the miniseries in years. But I think we actually maybe see a Wolfman
okay.
version in that, if I remember correctly, because that was one of the fears of one of them. So yes, I think these like old kind of monster masks are an allusion to that. And they also
Okay.
just kind of look creepy, like dead
They
face,
do.
cheapy plastic of the era kind of masks. And there's a couple outside like having like a little flirty moment, and then all the cars
Mm,
roll up and they have their masks on and they have their old bats and weapons and things,
yeah,
and things kind of get aggressive, and then we cut away and that's the end of the episode.
yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
I'm I'm not looking forward to what episode 7's going to be opening with, shall I
Yeah.
just say. It's
Yeah.
it's not gonna go down particularly well. But
Mm-mm.
I also question whether, like, obviously it's gonna be what it is, but does it come out at the same time and just start kind of causing chaos at the same time? Or does it fester on everybody's kind of sadness after it happens, shall we say? Or
Feed off
kind
of
of
the aftermath
does it feed off the aftermath, or does it feed during?
concurrently. Yeah. That's a good question. That will be answered. It will be answered in the next episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, we're getting intense on investigating.
Yes. So have you enjoyed what you've seen so far? Or are you feeling kind of conflicted
Yeah.
about it? Yeah. Like,
As I said,
the
my
inconsistency with
feelings.
characters or
My feeling.
inconsistencies with trying to keep up with the lore of everything or trying to keep up what we've seen in the movies, or is it a
My
little bit
feelings
messy
that
for you?
my feelings that I spoke about at the beginning of the episode stay true.
Okay.
There's no. I don't have any different feelings after having an hour's conversation
Yeah.
about these 2 episodes, but I enjoy watching the show. I'm going to see how it ends, and we're going to see how it ends. We have 1 episode of investigating it. Welcome to Derry left, don't we? Before, as a show, we'll return with investigating it. Welcome to Derry when season 2 comes out. Sure,
Oh yeah.
I think we'll do that and do it in the same format of 2 episodes a show. But I need to see how it ends. I need to see how seriously the themes are taken, basically, in order for me to have a full kind of thought.
Yeah, because this is a format of a
on the
show. Yeah, because I think this is a different format of a show than like kind of what we've talked before. Because as we said, it is something that like came before something we already know kind of the final conclusion to. So
Yeah.
it's not like you can go into it not knowing where it's going to go, and really kind of form
but
that
like I
opinion
said,
of yeah.
like I said, it's not even that. It's not even that I'm concerned about or bothered about or anything like that.
Yeah,
It
no,
is
I'm just saying
simply
like how the format
finish.
is different from like Dawson's Creek or something, because like
Oh,
you
of
don't have
course
any
it is, yeah.
context for where it's going to end, but this
No.
you have some kind of context, so it's a
Absolutely.
totally different format of the show
Absolutely.
to discuss in
Absolutely.
the way we do on this show. Yeah.
The major point I want to make is, does it Welcome to Derry thematically finish what it began? Thematically finish what it thematically began?
Set up.
Not story-wise, not narratively. Does it thematically finish what it thematically began? I'm not sure it will. I'm not sure it will. Will it still satisfy? Possibly. Probably. As a narrative, as an emotion, as an everything like that. But does it thematically finish what it thematically began? Who's to say?
We'll see.
That's my main point of contention.
Takeaway.
But we will see.
Okay. All right.
We will see in that next episode of Investigating It. Welcome to Derry, that final one for season 1 of this show. Exciting times on It's All on and across all the things on It's a Wonderful Podcast, of course, as we are here. This show alternates every Monday at the moment with diving into Doctor Who on our TV-based things on a Monday. You can subscribe and ding your notification bell on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel, I should say, if you are watching today's episode, or of course subscribe to the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed. This is here every other Monday, of course, at the moment. TV-based things on a Monday. That is the name of the game. Morgan Hasn't Seen is also there on a Wednesday. Currently in a directorial debuts series over on Morgan Hasn't Seen, and currently in a Greta Garbo series over on the main show, celebrating old movies every Friday, like we love to do the most here on It's a Wonderful Podcast. If you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, you can find links to do that in the description of today's episode. Do subscribe wherever you are listening as well on all major podcast platforms. Leave your comments on Spotify, rate, review, like and share wherever you may be. And find us on and across all the social medias on the app formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at the Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E in there because, Jeannine.
3 is a magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at the Purple Dawn. All your Pennywise weird mouth fast things out there.
You can find me You can find me Jeannine _ on Twitter, Jeannine on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
Well, it does leave only one thing left for us to do, and we can finally do a proper Pennywise impression. We don't have to do a Dick Halloran impression again. We've had him show up. Bill Skarsgård does the voice, and there's times when it sounds like something else, doesn't it?
I don't know. When I hear it in my head to do it, it sounds like Yoda. So like when I go to do it,
Yoda-ish.
Yeah, because it has.
It's a little bit Yoda-ish, yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of has like a goes up and like. So I hear it in my head. I hear it in my head coming out like Yoda. So I'm fully aware that's what it sounds like. That's what
it's like. If Yoda crossed with Mickey Mouse.
Well, yeah, a little bit.
That's Pennywise.
3, 2, 1.
I think that's
Are you Georgie? I tried to warn you.